But
Okay.
see, narcissist is like a collection of things. Saying someone is self-absorbed is one thing that the person could work on. When women are throwing this term at a man, it's kind of like, whoa, they're catching like 5,000 different traits. And they're like, wait, that's not, I don't do all of this. Maybe that one, you know? So it's kind of like, how is somebody going to change if this one term that covers everything is how are they going to change like that? You got to like pick one and work on it and you know, continue to grow.
We've been talking about, so I pulled it from Google. All right. Narcissistic, having an excessive or erotic interest in oneself and one's physical appearance. So I know Mr. Viral came up here and exploded and changed the whole narrative around, but I'm going to have to agree a little bit. In modern times, that is what we're seeing from women more than men. Now, I don't think narcissism is really about some of the stuff we've been talking about, right? Because I don't really think narcissism is a bad thing. And I think we've made it out, like everything else, to be a bad thing, right? But the thinnest line I've ever seen that exists between two things is the line between fear and respect. And the second thinnest line I've ever seen is the line between narcissism and self-awareness. Like, most rich people are narcissists, and that's how they got there, right? So I don't necessarily look at it like it's a bad thing. And the one point that I wanted to make, kind of on Mr. Viral's point, is that women love narcissists. You could complain about them, but you actually love and obsess over these men more than any other group of men, right? So for the fourth week in a row, I'm gonna bring back this terrible thing we've been talking about, but that's the Superman and Clark Kent argument. Women love Superman. Superman loves himself. He wants to go save everybody, and he feeds off that energy. And once you realize that this man is more in love with himself than he is you try to change him back into Clark Kent, because that's the version of a man you can actually deal with. So I don't know. I just feel like on this particular narrative, narcissism isn't really a bad thing. And I do think it is, in this day and age, because of social media, more attributed to the women's side. What do y'all think?
What about Batman?
First,
now, I could say in general, it's not that bad. But when it comes to a relationship, right? When you're saying, okay, now when you are obsessed with caring for yourself in a relationship, that's when it can be problematic, because at some point you're going to have to provide, you're going to have to give to the other, you're going to have to respect what your partner's talking about and understand them. And if you are a narcissist in a relationship, it could spell for something really bad, just because you have to consider others in that aspect.
So I wanted to jump in here. I wish we would give the word narcissist back to the professionals, because your average person can't tell the difference between a trauma response and a narcissistic trait. There are a lot of people out there who are self-absorbed because of the way that they grew up and the traumas that they dealt with. There are people out there who refuse to be empathetic or don't have the capability to be empathetic because of childhood trauma or even adult trauma or complex trauma. I think the moment we stop trying to label people and start to seek understanding in why this person is the way that they are, and try to come together from that point of, is this something that I'm capable of dealing with, especially in romantic relationships, and being honest about your capability in that sense of what you're able to take on, I think we can start to move forward. But everybody naming each other as narcissists, I think is gotten so out of hand that narcissists are hiding among us and we can't even tell because we're calling everybody a narcissist. Like, it's just become that wild in these streets.
Hold on, Enos. Who's calling who a narcissist? I've rarely ever heard a man call a woman a narcissist.
So I don't know that men are using the label, but men are usually
women are narcissists. What are you talking
so
about?
On this panel, the men have definitely been the first ones.
I've never pointed in a woman's face and be like, "You're a narcissist." Never in my life.
But if most of the men on the panel are saying that women have
women exhibit narcissistic behavior, in our opinion.
But
That's all we're saying.
I do agree with Inaz is that the term has been diluted and overused, and it does need to go back into the professionals. And I think in the context in which we're talking about, women use it against men when they realize what they don't feel fulfilled with whatever it is he's doing. Like, literally, if he's more absorbed with himself, his purpose, his money, he didn't do something for her, you're a narcissist. You're a narcissist. Like, they've overused and diluted that word for years.
So I think it's the reason why it seems like men are talking about the term is because women are talking about it. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm a narcissist. What? Let's go look up the definition. Since men are more logical, they're gonna be like, well, hey, this is not me. This is you, ma'am. You understand? So now it's kind of like it's being thrown back in the face. I don't think men were just like, yeah, you're a narcissist. They're not walking around, and I have never heard of that with this term until a couple years ago. So meaning like it's being called to somebody in a relationship. It's some new stuff is trending. So
what did you mean?
Like I think Mr. Viral alluded to it earlier that men and women communicate very differently, right? So I don't know why a man would point out that a woman is being a narcissist, but men will point out when a woman is being self-absorbed or if she's not listening. Sometimes that response is not verbal. Sometimes it's just shutting down or disengaging, right? So it's not to say that the interaction or thought process isn't happening. It's the finger pointing that isn't necessarily happening.
Okay. But see, narcissist is like a collection of things. Saying someone is self-absorbed is one thing that the person could work on. When women are throwing this term at a man, it's kind of like, whoa, they're catching like 5,000 different traits. And I'm like, wait, that's not, I don't do all of this. Maybe that one, you know? So it's kind of like, how is somebody going to change if this one term that covers everything is how are they going to change like that? You got to like pick one and work on it and, you know, continue to grow.
Okay. So I'm in agreement with a lot of y'all that this term is being overused, right? And I think, first of all, I agree with Naz that we need to hand this back to the professionals. Majority of people are not narcissists. In fact, it says here that having narcissistic tendencies like bragging or making yourself the center of attention are normal when they occur occasionally. So if you watch a football player that gets in front of a camera and tells the world that he's the best player on the planet, yes, that's a narcissistic tendency, but they don't make him a narcissist. And then there's also the tripped out fact that there are they have done studies that there are more men that are narcissists than women, 7.7% versus 4.8%. Mm-hmm. But we have to stop throwing that word narcissist around because majority of people are not narcissists. We just see something, we just see a tendency that we may see in them, and we're like, oh, well, you must be a narcissist because you exude this tendency. But it's actually maybe a normal tendency if given context. So if they're not being receptive to what you're saying in that moment, there may be a reason for why they're not being receptive. That don't make them a narcissist, but a narcissist would have that tendency. Y'all get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, honestly, I just think it's more of an emotional response from women. I mean, I personally don't care when they say or label me a narcissist. I just think it's just one of them things you just got to deal with. I think the difference between men and women is men understand the ways of women, like the negative and the positive, but we accept it fully. Like, all right, these are the negatives. We know that ain't going to change. It's been that way since the beginning of fucking human history. It is what it is. If you want to deal with women, this is what comes with it. Whereas women is like, damn, they don't want to accept nothing that they don't agree with. I think that's the main difference is the level of understanding of each other, even the level of understanding of like communication. Like mommy was saying, oh, you don't know how to communicate, simply because I said, well, women communicate with emotions and men communicate with logic, which is a fact, which is why it's always a disconnect, because no matter what our emotions feel, we want to look for the facts. We want to look what makes sense, whether it make us feel good or not. If it makes sense, it just makes sense. Whereas women it don't got to make sense. It just got to make me feel good. So
yeah, I just feel like more women are just naive because they know what they can use to get what they want from men. I just feel like it's just, you know, women be feeling like they need that fair exchange. They become naive. They become something that they're not. Just like how they say, like how the man said, "Oh, men love bomb." Women do the same thing. They get what they want.
Also, if we're going to throw around the term narcissist, right? Why is it that we only tend to hear somebody call someone a narcissist when we're talking about a romantic relationship? So, say for instance, Mommy 3 and Smooth are dating, right? They have a blowout, they have a breakup, right? Mommy 3 will call Smooth a narcissist, but I'm friends with Smooth. Trigger Mike is his cousin, JR is his brother, and none of us would call him a narcissist because he's not narcissistic. I would think that narcissists tend to be narcissistic to everyone, not just someone of the opposite sex.
And that's the whole thing. You always get the testimony from the person in the relationship, right. And that's it.
Like, that's why I was asking the men. I was like, so y'all never been around a guy that y'all was like, man, this dude shiesty. Like,
I think men will see it, but they're not going to call it out. They're not going to tell.
I don't think that would be a narcissist.
You know what?
Well, that makes you shiesty. Doesn't make you a narcissist.
I'm just saying.
I don't think another man's going to go to another man and say, "You always got to be right. You are too self-absorbed."
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because, well, you know, us women, we do communicate different with our friends. Because sometimes, like, we have some friends that, man, like, she'll go get her. We were like, look, you don't need to be out here like this. Like, but I feel like women do tend to, well, good friendships tend to tell each other about ourselves more than y'all would tell each other about yourselves.
That's wrong. That is absolutely that's cap. There's no way. Men hold each other accountable.
Mommy 3
on a daily. We would sit here and roast each other for hours about everything we're doing wrong.
Mommy 3, go ahead and put the number. Go ahead and put the number to your weed man in the back chat so I can smoke what you smoke.